Best Football Teams in the World 2023. Our definitive list of the best football teams in the world in 2023. Do you agree with our top 10? We're by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. Everyone sings it, but only one team can ever boast it as truth. Picking out the best football team in the world is a near impossible venture, an inevitable magnet for shrieks of distress as certain teams are omitted despite plying their trade in the 8th tier of Spanish football, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. In determining the greatest teams in world football as we enter 2023, it's important to establish the ground rules, the criteria for entry into this hallowed list. First, we'll be taking a long-term approach. Sure, your team defeated the league leaders last week, but it doesn't instantly elevate them to the upper echelons of global football. Form is temporary, class is permanent. The clearest example is Liverpool. A rotten 2022-23 campaign should not immediately see them plunge out of the top 10 world football teams to be replaced by Brighton, Brentford or Fulham, though they have taken a knock compared to last season's rankings. Second, trophies do matter, but they are not all important. Bayern Munich may be the undisputed conquerors of Germany and PSG may rule France, but they each boast a far clearer path to their respective titles than Premier League and La Liga rivals, meaning European performance must come into play. We have tried to strike a balance of recent past success, this current season's form and indicators of future trajectory to formulate our top 10. We know you might not agree, but who do you think is our number one? 10. Manchester United. United make the top 10 cut by razor-thin margins. A wave of elite teams have underperformed across Europe this season. Juventus languish in mid-table following back-to-back fourth-place finishes in Serie A, while AC Milan, Tottenham and Chelsea are experiencing lacklustre campaigns. The Red Devils have clawed their way into our list at the expense of Dortmund and Atletico Madrid by virtue of their trajectory. With each passing week, Erik Ten Hag's team are growing in confidence and their identity as a football team. Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes have regained their stride and they still have one toe in the Premier League title race. 9. Napoli. More than a mere flash in the pan, Napoli are on an increasingly upward curve with Serie A gains being made in each of their past 3 seasons, plus the current campaign. Napoli finished 7th in 2020, 5th in 2021, 3rd in 2022 and, at the time of writing, boast a double-digit lead at the top of Serie A after also winning a tricky Champions League group containing Liverpool, Ajax and Rangers. Victor Osimhen has netted a huge goal haul in 2022/23 and has been linked with a £100 million plus move away from the club, while megastar in the making Kvichuk Kvaratskhelia has contributed double digits in the goals and assists columns. Luciano Spalletti has grown a European monster in Naples. 8. Arsenal. It would be lazy to simply throw Arsenal's name into the mix based on one season at the top, but the Gunners' form extended throughout most of 2022 with a youthful team that will continue to grow under Mikel Arteta. They racked up the 5th highest points tally in Premier League history after 19 games with young superstars Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard and William Saliba leading the charge. You could argue they've still not won anything yet and can't be considered among the elite, but to compete at the business end of the Premier League, toe-to-toe with Manchester City, you need serious talent in your ranks. Arsenal boast plenty of promise going forward, whatever happens this term. 7. Inter Milan. The Milanese giants may have already conceded this season's title to Napoli, but they remain a strong force in Italian football right now. The dark ages of a decade ago are over and they are back to the summit in Serie A. Inter won the title in 2021, sandwiched either side by second-place finishes. They also lifted the Coppa Italia and Supercoppa Italia last year and appear likely to finish second in Serie A once again this term. They have found consistency and security in the upper echelons of the Italian top flight, something not to be taken for granted given the erratic form of AC Milan, the collapse of Juventus, Atlanta's continued threat and the presence of Jose Mourinho at Roma. 6. Barcelona. You'd be forgiven for absorbing the near-exclusively negative press swirling around Barcelona and assuming they are a spent force, a giant ready to be tucked in for a long sleep. That simply couldn't be further from the case. We'll leave discussions of their long-term future and financial state to others, but in terms of on-field action, Barcelona have plenty to feel optimistic about. Xavi has settled in nicely at the club and currently has the Catalan Giants in a terrific position at the top of La Liga. Pedri and Gavi look set to conquer world football and Robert Lewandowski remains as lethal as ever. Barca's European exploits have tailed off since Lionel Messi's departure, but they remain a force to be reckoned with. 5. PSG. 8 League One titles and 21 domestic cup trophies since 2013 speaks volumes about PSG's dominance over the domestic game. No side has overwhelmed their nation in a top domestic league for such a period of time as PSG have done over the last decade. The fantasy football all-star trio of Kylian Mbappé, Lionel Messi, and Neymar continue to make a mockery of the French top flight, but that's where our praise for PSG has to end. Simply, given the resources plowed into the club, given the box office managers and players who have called Parc des Princes their home, PSG's continental return has been substandard. In the glittering last decade, PSG have failed to reach the semi-finals of the Champions League in 8 of 10 seasons, while their run to the 2020 final involved relatively favorable matches against Atlanta and RB Leipzig. If they can't consistently crack the top 4 in Europe, they can't expect to crack our top 4 either. 4. Liverpool. Liverpool are certainly one to watch in terms of 2023 rankings as the year rumbles on. There are no two ways about it, the Reds have endured an abysmal season so far. However, this shouldn't discount them from the top table just yet. Jurgen Klopp remains an elite manager, their squad has been riddled with critical injuries and the season is not over yet, with scope for growth before May. Liverpool have reached 3 Champions League finals in 5 years, they won the Premier League in 2020 and recorded 2 second-place finishes around it. They also won the FA Cup and Carabao Cup last season. The Reds are in a precarious place, but their short-term form should not entirely demolish their status at the top. Yet. 3. Bayern Munich. A run of 10 consecutive Bundesliga titles has cemented Bayern Munich as the undisputed dominant force in Germany. Dortmund and RB Leipzig have tried but failed to truly make a lasting dent on them. Many could argue, like PSG, that the relative weakness of the league should count against them, but that's where Champions League performance has to play a factor in determining their true strength. Bayern have reached the semi-finals in 8 of the last 13 campaigns, with 4 finals and 2 victories in that time. They reached the knockout rounds in all 13 of those seasons and only lost twice in the round of 16 stage. A true continental heavyweight. 2. Manchester City. It's hard to raise Manchester City's decade of success without acknowledging Premier League charges that accuse the club of alleged financial rule breaches. The club strongly denies any wrongdoing and the debate will rumble on for months, and potentially years, to come, but for now we will focus on their on-field heroics. City have won 4 of the last 5 Premier League titles and are firmly in the hunt for another in 2022-23. They boast the best coach in world football, Pep Guardiola, and several of the best players in the world including Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne. It hasn't all gone City's way in 2022-23, but we hold them to such a high standard that even brief blips in form are seen as catastrophic crises. City are the dominant force in the most lucrative, highest quality league in world football with relentless evolution of their style set to keep them at the very top for a long time to come. The only stick to beat City with is their lack of a Champions League trophy in the cabinet, though they have shown clear progress in this area with back-to-back semi-final berths. We have weighted less of our judgment of City on the Champions League due to the strength of the Premier League and their clear dominance over it. 1. Real Madrid. Spanish giants Real Madrid remain the toughest draw in European football, having won the trophy 4 times since 2016. For context, only 6 teams have won 4 or more trophies since the European Cup's inception in 1956. Reliable, prolific goalscorer Karim Benzema is the reigning Ballon d'Or winner. Luka Modric remains imperious in midfield, though his involvement is slowing down, and David Alaba may be the best defender in the world. Young players such as Vinicius Jr., Eduardo Camavinga, and Aurelien Tchouaméni will lock in Real Madrid's continued success for years to come. They sit behind Barcelona in the title race this season, but this shouldn't cloud their place as the kings of European football right now. Only a shock implosion or City bringing a European trophy back to the Etihad could dislodge them from the summit,